Why do you feel chills when there's no wind or cold? Is it just a coincidence, or is it something more? This is how the strangest night in the life of Nahor, a Hebrew shepherd in the hills of Canaan, began. That night he felt a chill he couldn't explain. It wasn't due to the weather or fear. It was a message, a warning that, if left undeciphered, would change his destiny forever. But this isn't just an ancient story. It's a revelation that could impact your life today, because the Lord is speaking to you, and those chills you feel are not mere sensations. They are a divine call. I invite you to stay until the end, because this message could be the most important sign you ever receive. Moreover, I want you to share your experience with unexplained chills in the comments and write this phrase: "The Lord warns me through chills." Tell me if you've ever felt that connection, and together, let's discover what it means. Nahor didn't know at the time that the chill he had felt wasn't an ordinary phenomenon. He was walking alone among the nearby hills of Hebron, where the sheep grazed peacefully. Suddenly, a thick mist enveloped the valley. It wasn't the first time a fog had descended over Canaan, but this time it was different. The air was still, but his skin prickled as if he were surrounded by invisible forces. "What is this?" he wondered, his heart pounding. It wasn't fear that overcame him, but a strange sensation, as though someone or something was watching him from the shadows. And then, suddenly, he understood. It wasn't just a mist surrounding him. It was the presence of the divine, a clear and direct sign. God was speaking to him, but not with words. He was speaking through the chills. Nahor fell to his knees, not out of weakness, but under the weight of what he felt. It was as if an invisible hand touched his soul, an energy so powerful it made it hard to breathe. Sweat dripped from his brow, though there was no heat. Then a deep voice resonated in his mind. "Listen, Nahor, my presence is here. The chills you feel are my sign. Do not fear, for I am revealing something great, something that will transform your life and the lives of those around you." And just as it happened to Nahor, it could happen to you. Those chills you feel, those times when your skin tingles for no apparent reason, could be God's voice reaching for your heart. Think about those moments. They're not just physical reactions or coincidences. Each one could be a message from the Lord, a call to pay attention and seek the meaning behind the sensations coursing through your body. That night, Nahor rose slowly, his heart still pounding. He knew he had to move forward, that the vision wasn't over yet. He walked deeper into the valley, guided only by the faint glow of the moon. In the distance, he saw a figure approaching, dressed in white. It was a tall man of imposing appearance, surrounded by a gentle light. He didn't seem human. When he spoke, his voice echoed across the valley. "I am the messenger of the Most High," he said. "I come to you, Nahor, because you have been chosen. The Lord speaks to you through these chills so that you know He is with you. Your life will not be the same, and you must be prepared for what is to come. Not everyone will understand what you feel, but you will. You will feel it. Every time your skin tingles, every chill will be a reminder that the Lord is near, guiding you." Nahor remained silent, astonished by the revelation. He didn't understand everything, but he felt an immense peace. He knew that from that moment on, he had to be more attentive than ever to the signs that would come. The chills would no longer be just a fleeting sensation, but a language, a way for God to communicate with him. And just as he spoke to Nahor, he can speak to you. Every chill you feel is a whisper from heaven, a sign that the Lord is watching over you, guiding you, and preparing you for something greater. Don't dismiss these sensations, because they may be the key to understanding the purpose God has for your life. It's no coincidence that you are reading these words now. It is a reminder that God has a plan for you, and the chills you have felt may be proof of His presence by your side. From that day on, Nahor lived differently. Every time he felt a chill, he knew it was the Lord speaking to him. He guided his family with wisdom, warned his people of dangers to come, and never again doubted the signs he received. The chill was confirmation that God was always with him. Dear listener, have you ever felt a message reach you at the exact moment you needed it? A sign appearing when you needed it most, even though you didn't understand how or why? Let me tell you something important. This video hasn't appeared to you by chance. You're not here due to a trivial coincidence. God has placed this message in your path because there is something you need to hear. Something that could transform your life if you pay attention. Today, I want to explain the deep connection between Naor's story, the protagonist you've just learned about, and your own life. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share could resonate deeply within your heart and bring light to moments of darkness you've experienced. If you've made it this far, I assure you this message is meant specifically for you. Not everyone will understand it as you will. Naor's story is more than an ancient legend. It's a reflection of what many of us experience throughout life, especially as we age and begin to look back, searching for meaning in moments of doubt and fear. Have you ever wondered why, at certain moments in your life, a chill runs down your spine for no apparent reason? Why, in those instances, you feel an inexplicable connection to something greater than yourself? What Naor experienced wasn't just a physical phenomenon. God was speaking to him through those chills, and the same might be happening in your life. Those moments when you feel a sensation you can't explain, when your heart stirs for no apparent reason, could be God trying to capture your attention as he did with Naor. Perhaps you've gone through difficult situations, moments when the path was uncertain and answers seemed far away. But I assure you, in every one of those moments, God has been present, whispering in the corners of your soul. Sometimes those signs don't come as grand miracles, but as small sensations, like a chill running through your skin, causing you to pause and reflect. Naor, in his simplicity, did not initially understand what those chills meant. Perhaps you too have found yourself in situations where you don't understand what God is trying to tell you, but what Naor discovered, and what you can discover as well, is that those chills are not merely a reaction of the body, they are a language of the spirit. They are how God often reminds us that he is near, guiding our steps even when we cannot see him. And here is the most hopeful part. God does not leave you alone. Even in moments when you believe you are, he is always at work in your life, speaking to you, guiding you, and using every detail, even something as simple as a chill, to remind you that he has a purpose for you. Now, I want you to think about your life. Perhaps there have been times when you felt lost, as though a fog had descended over you, just as it did for Naor in the valley. But just as he encountered the presence of God in the midst of that mist, you too can find God's hand guiding you, even when things seem confusing or uncertain. Sometimes it's difficult to recognize these signs, especially in daily life. We can be so focused on our problems, on the burdens of everyday life, that we don't realize God is trying to tell us something. But today, I want you to pause for a moment. I want you to remember those moments when you felt something inside calling you to reflect, to stop and to listen. Those are the moments when God is closest to you, when he whispers, perhaps not with audible words, but with sensations that reach directly into your heart. The message of Naor's story is simple but powerful. God always finds a way to communicate with us, even when we believe he is far away. Naor was not a prophet nor a wise man by the world's standards, but he was able to hear God through something as simple as a chill. You too can be Naor on your own path. You can hear God's voice in the smallest details, in those moments that others might overlook. Because, dear listener, God does not choose only a few to speak to. He speaks to everyone willing to listen. Those who, like you, take the time to reflect and pay attention to those signs that seem insignificant, but in reality carry a profound message. Think for a moment. How many times have you felt that unexplainable chill in your life? How many times have you felt that God was trying to tell you something, but the noise of the world drowned it out? And perhaps, dear listener, you are wondering right now, why now? Why this sensation, this chill, speaking to me at this very moment? I will tell you honestly, it is precisely in moments of greatest uncertainty, when your heart has accumulated experiences and answers seem hardest to find, that God draws nearer in the clearest ways. It is in these seasons of life, when you feel you've lived through so much, that God decides to remind you of His presence with signs like these. It doesn't matter how many years have passed, how many challenges you've faced. God is still knocking at your door, and sometimes He does so in unexpected ways. Perhaps you've already experienced many things, joys and sorrows, victories and defeats, moments of great faith and others of doubt. Maybe now, at this stage of your life, you wonder if God still has a plan for you, if you are still in His heart as you once were. The answer, dear listener, is a resounding yes. God never stops speaking, guiding, and touching the hearts of those who are willing to listen. Just as He appeared to Nahor in the depths of the valley, God is presenting His message to you now. That chill, that sensation you feel when something touches your spirit, is a reminder that you are still at the center of His plan, that your life in every moment remains part of His work. And perhaps you think that the great decisions of life are already behind you, that the time for great callings has passed. But I assure you, it hasn't. No matter how many years have gone by, God continues to find ways to manifest Himself, to remind you that your life still has a profound purpose in His kingdom. In Nahor's story, the divine presence revealed itself through a chill, something he didn't understand at first. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knew exactly how to reach him. He knows how to reach each of us in the most personal and precise way. It's not always with great voices from heaven or obvious signs. Many times it's with the subtle, with what we barely notice but resonates deeply within our being. And if you're here today, hearing this, it's no coincidence. It's because the Lord wants you to pause for a moment and think about those small details of your life, those times you've felt something unexplainable that has called you to reflect, to stop, and to pay attention. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what meaning does my life have now, after all I've been through? The answer, dear listener, is that your life is still a testimony of God's love and power. There is no experience, no moment you've lived through that doesn't have a divine purpose. Every chill, every unexplainable sensation you've felt over the years may be a reminder that God has been there, working in you and through you. Sometimes the greatest work God does in us isn't visible from the outside. It's a silent work in the depths of our hearts, just as it was with Nahor. God continues shaping you, continues speaking to your soul, and continues guiding your steps, even on the most uncertain paths. It's very likely that throughout your life, you've faced situations that seemed to make no sense, moments when you asked yourself where God was. Perhaps you felt loneliness or uncertainty and wondered why God didn't seem to be speaking. But today, I want you to remember Nahor's story. God was there, even when everything seemed confusing and incomprehensible, and He is here with you now. When Nahor felt that chill in the mist, it wasn't because something bad was going to happen. On the contrary, it was a sign that God was near, that He was about to reveal something new to him. In the same way, those moments that sometimes leave you speechless, that make you pause and reflect, may be the ways God is about to show you something greater, something you may not yet understand, but which God will make clear to you in His time. And here lies the greatest promise of all. God has not finished with you. Your life remains valuable to Him, and every day is an opportunity to experience His presence more deeply. The chills that run through your body, those sensations you can't explain, are reminders that His Spirit is alive and active in you. Each of those moments is an invitation to draw closer to him, to open your heart, and to trust that his hand continues to guide your path. Think about those moments. Perhaps you felt chills during prayer, in difficult situations, or even when remembering loved ones who are no longer with you. Those moments are not coincidences. They are instances where God wants you to remember that he is with you, that he loves you, that he supports you, and that even when you cannot see him, he is always present. And dear listener, when you look at your life, you might think that those chills you feel, those signs you've noticed in unexpected moments, are simply physical reactions. But let me remind you of a fundamental truth. In God's kingdom, nothing is a coincidence. Everything has a purpose. Just as Naor initially didn't understand why those chills coursed through him amidst the mist, perhaps you too are in a stage where God's signs feel confusing or difficult to understand. But let me assure you, God is still working in your life, even when you don't clearly perceive it. As we progress through life, it's easy to think that the great revelations, the significant callings, belong to the past. But I want you to pause here and reflect. What if these very moments are filled with God's presence? What if those chills, those emotions that arise without apparent reason, are the touch of the Holy Spirit inviting you to draw closer to him? It doesn't matter how many years have passed, how many challenges you've faced. God's calling remains real, remains active, and continues to resonate deep within your being. In Naor's story, we see how God chooses the simplest and most ordinary moments to reveal himself, a valley shrouded in mist, a chill on the skin. And there was the divine presence. Perhaps in your own life, the moments when you felt the most connected to God weren't grand events, but quiet moments. Those instances when something deep within you whispered that there was more, that God was near. That is God's language. Often he doesn't speak to us with thunder, but with a gentle whisper, with a sensation that calls us to pause and pay attention. Perhaps at some point in your life, you felt that God was far away, that the answers to your prayers didn't come as you expected. Maybe you've gone through moments where you felt like you were walking alone through a valley of uncertainty, like Naor. But I want you to remember something very important today. Even when we cannot always see him, God is always present. He never leaves us alone in our valleys, never abandons us in the mist. And those chills you feel from time to time are a constant reminder that he is closer than you think. Sometimes our lives become filled with routine, and we can fall into the trap of thinking that the extraordinary can no longer happen to us, that those moments of deep encounter with God are things of the past. But I tell you with all certainty, every day that God gives you is a new opportunity to hear his voice, to feel his touch in your life. And yes, even now, in this very moment, God is speaking. Those chills you felt during moments of prayer, in times of worship, or even in moments of silence, are signs that he remains present, that he continues to work. Remember how Naor, in his uncertainty, was able to hear God's voice through something as simple as a chill. God didn't choose loud thunder or lightning to speak to him. He did so subtly, yet powerfully. And in the same way, he might be speaking to you now. Perhaps in those moments when life feels overwhelming, when you wonder what the purpose of everything you've experienced is, God is closest to you, saying, "I have not left you. I am still here." It is in the stillness of those moments, when everything seems to stop, that God can speak to us with the greatest clarity. You don't need to seek grand miracles or spectacular signs. Sometimes all you need is a heart willing to listen, to feel his touch through those small sensations that deep down you know are no coincidence. It is God touching the strings of your soul, reminding you that your life is still part of his perfect plan, that your days still have a purpose in his work. And perhaps over the years, you've wondered why God has allowed you to experience certain things, why you've gone through moments of pain or difficulty. But today, I want you to see those moments not as evidence of abandonment, but as opportunities to experience God's grace in a deeper way. Every experience, every challenge you have faced has been preparation for the calling that God still has for you. Even now, He is calling you to walk in faith, to trust that every step you take is guided by His loving hand. Just as Naor discovered that the chills he felt were a sign of God's presence, I want you to take those moments in your life as reminders that God is still speaking to you, still guiding your steps, and still working in your heart. It doesn't matter how many years have passed or how many times you felt that the path was uncertain. God has never abandoned you, and He never will. And in these moments, dear listener, perhaps you are beginning to realize something profound, something the Lord has been planting in your heart for a long time. Every one of those sensations, every one of those chills that runs through you is a divine whisper, a touch of the Holy Spirit reminding you that you are still under God's loving care. Maybe you've grown accustomed to seeing those moments as mere physical reactions, but now you can begin to understand that there is much more behind them. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows every fiber of our being and understands that we don't always respond to words in the same way. Sometimes reading or hearing a message isn't enough. Sometimes it must be felt deep in the soul. It is in those moments of chills, in those inexplicable sensations, where God wants you to pause and pay attention because His message is filled with purpose. Perhaps you've asked yourself more than once, why am I feeling this now? What is God trying to tell me in this moment? The answer can be different for each of us because God speaks to us in unique and personal ways. But what I can tell you with certainty is that if you're feeling something, it's because there is a reason, and that reason is tied to what God is doing in your life right now. It doesn't matter how long it's been since you last felt His presence so close. He is still here, still speaking, still inviting you to trust. Sometimes the later stages of life can make us think that the most important things have already happened, that God's greatest works are already complete. But I want you to remember something very important. In God's kingdom, every day is a new opportunity to witness His power, to experience His grace, and to discover new ways in which He can use us. God does not measure time as we do. For Him, your story is still unfolding, and those signs, those moments when something deep within you stirs, are reminders that there is still more to live, more to discover, and more to do in His name. Remember Naor's story, how God used what seemed like a simple chill to reveal a greater plan, a purpose he had never imagined. God doesn't need grand gestures to show us His love or reveal His will. Sometimes the smallest signs, the ones that almost go unnoticed, carry the greatest messages. Perhaps in your life there have been small moments, brief instances when you felt that inner stirring. Perhaps it was during prayer, during a deep conversation, or even in the midst of silence. Those moments, dear listener, are not accidental. Every time you feel something deep within your being, every time a chill runs down your spine without explanation, it is the Holy Spirit touching you, reminding you that there is more He wants to show you. He's reminding you that your journey is not over, that you still have a purpose to fulfill. It doesn't matter how many times you've felt that you've strayed, that you've stopped, or that you've drifted away. God is always ready to draw you close to His heart again, to remind you that His love never runs out, and that His calling is as strong today as it was in the past. As the years go by, it's easy to think that we've already heard everything God had to say to us, that we've already learned the most important lessons. But the beauty of walking with Christ is that we never stop learning, never stop being transformed. And those chills, those emotions that sometimes seem to arise out of nowhere, are living proof that God is still working in your life, still touching the strings of your heart, and still revealing His will. Think for a moment about all the times you've felt those chills throughout your life. Do you remember those moments? They may have come in difficult situations, in moments of uncertainty, or even during times of deep joy. What they have in common is that in all those moments God was there, Sometimes chills come when we least expect them, but they are always a reminder that our God is present, attentive to every one of our thoughts, emotions, and needs. He does not abandon us for a single second. Now, I invite you to reflect on the following. What is God telling you through those moments? What areas of your life is the Lord touching right now, inviting you to trust Him more deeply, to let go of fears, doubts, or burdens you've been carrying for so long? Perhaps those chills are God's way of calling you to leave something behind or to take a new step of faith. The important thing is that every time you feel that sensation, don't ignore it. Pause and listen, because in that brief moment, in that small stirring, may lie the answer you've been seeking. At the end of this journey, dear listener, it's essential that we reflect on the depth of the message we've shared. Every chill, every sensation is a divine invitation to draw closer to God, to discover the work He is doing in your life. You may have gone through moments of doubt or confusion, but it is in those moments that the unconditional love of the Lord is revealed. He wants you to know that His voice continues to resonate, even in the deepest silence, and that His plan for you is still in motion. Perhaps, as you recall Naor's words, you've seen how God can use the most ordinary things to speak to us in powerful ways. It's a constant reminder that the extraordinary can be found in the ordinary, and that we should never underestimate the power of a simple emotion or a moment of introspection. Those chills we feel are God's response to our concerns and desires, a connection that ties us to His eternal purpose. In every moment of your life, when you feel that stirring, remember that God is by your side, guiding you and giving you strength. Life may present challenges, but every chill is an opportunity to pause and recognize that there is a higher power that cares for you. He is calling you to live with purpose, to seek His face, and to allow His light to shine through you. Now, I want to invite you to make a commitment to yourself. Commit to paying attention to these moments, to not overlook them. Each time you feel that chill, take a moment to ask, what is God trying to tell me right now? How can I respond to His call? Doing this will open your heart to new revelations and a deeper understanding of His love. As you move forward, it's vital to remember that you are not alone on this journey. Within the community of believers, there are many who feel the same, who struggle with similar challenges, and who seek the same connection with God. The Christian life is a life of community, and each of us has a role to play. Just as Naor found his purpose through God's signs, you too can help others discover theirs. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your story, your experiences, and those moments when you felt God's presence in your life. Your testimony could be the light that guides someone else on their path. Think about how you can be an instrument of peace and encouragement to those around you. Perhaps someone needs to hear your words of hope, or someone feeling lost could benefit from your experience. You have the ability to be that voice that speaks life and light. And that is something extraordinary. When you feel those chills, also consider how you can share that experience with others. Each of us has a story to tell, and every story has the potential to impact lives. In the midst of all this, I want to emphasize the importance of always being attentive to God's signs. He continues to speak, and if we open our hearts and minds, we will hear His clear and powerful voice guiding us toward the path He has prepared for us. As you deepen this relationship, you will experience a transformation beyond what you could imagine. I encourage you not to stop here. Subscribe to this channel and join us daily with our daily messages. Listen to these messages while doing other activities, while meditating, or while resting your mind. Even if you aren't paying full attention, your subconscious mind will absorb these messages for your life, and your spiritual growth will be inevitable. If you feel you can help a brother or sister in the comments with at least one word of encouragement, advice, or simply by sharing your story, I encourage you to do so. Your support and words could be the ray of hope that someone else needs at this moment. Together, as a community of believers, we can continue growing and building one another up. Remember always that each day is a new opportunity to feel God's chills in your life, and each moment is one more step on the path He has laid out for you. So keep going, keep listening, keep feeling, and allow the love and grace of God to guide you toward what He has prepared for you. God has great things in store for you. Have a day filled with blessings and opportunities to feel His presence. Don't miss our next video. Discover God's plan behind your struggles, how He shapes you, and learn how every challenge in your life has a divine purpose. Click now to understand how God transforms your trials into blessings. It's a message that could change your perspective and strengthen your faith.